It's time to find out what's cooking. Here now is the head chef of the Pemberton Township Food Service Program and your host, Tim Paroli.
Hello, welcome to What's Cooking. I'm Tim Paroli, and today we're going to show you something very easy and very simple. And it's something that we all enjoy. And I found out recently a lot of us don't know how to make it. I was surprised. It's chicken soup. Chicken soup like Mama used to make, with a whole chicken in the pot and all the vegetables and all the good stuff. No MSG, nothing added. That's what we're going to show you today. And I was told that a lot of us don't know how to make it. And some of the prepared soups that we take for that cold that we have ingredients in them that really don't help us. And the studies have shown where chicken soup is going to help you, this is the one that you want. And we're going to show you, once you make that plain chicken soup, we're going to show you some dumplings and then how to turn the rest of the chicken into a delicious dish called a chicken fricassee. And then on the back end of the program, we're going to show you a quickie pastry. Because once you've mastered something like this, then you can move on to making a dessert once you feel better. Now, flu season's upon us. Fortunately, the flu isn't upon us yet. So what you're going to need to begin this, and what you want to remember, is start this ahead of time. This is something that you start 2 or 3 hours before you want to enjoy it. The more time you have, up to 3 hours, the more time you can take, because once your soup is made, it will wait for you. That's the other nice thing about it. What I have here is a commercial saucepan. It has one handle, it's pretty big, and it's really only a pan. A commercial stock pot would be very large. So you might take your favorite spaghetti pot, and for this, it doesn't have to be a very thick and heavy pot. Any kind of a pot will do. All you're going to do with it is, this is the part you're going to like. If you've watched us do chickens before, and you said, gee, he makes it look easy, but I can't do that. And I've had people tell me that. This is a great way to begin to explore how a chicken is actually put together, so that when you go to handle a raw chicken and to take it apart like we've shown you on previous programs, you're going to be able to do it really easy. And this is nice because it doesn't take a whole lot of work. Take the chicken out of the wrapper. Very simple. Put the chicken in the pot. Take out the little bag of parts. Put the parts in the pot. They're called giblets. It's the neck and the gizzard and the heart and all that good stuff. And the reason I tell you it's all that good stuff is because that's what it is. The organ meats, or the parts that make the chicken work, are very high in a lot of nutrients. So into the pot they go. Then you're going to take some celery. Let me just move this pot a little bit. And the bottom end of this celery, you'll take a look at that. From when it's been cut, this celery was cut in California. Look at it. It's very dark. We're only going to cut off that little end of it. Look how nice that looks now. Went from that to that, almost like magic. Now we're going to just cut the end of the celery off. And see how big that is and heavy? We're going to cut that in half once. And we're just going to toss that into the pot. The middles of the celery into the pot. The leaves into the pot. Celery sticks, just break them in half and throw them in there. Carrots. We're going to take the carrots and we're going to just put them in their hole. Now, the reason that we don't, I like carrots, so I put a lot in, because once the chicken is stewed up and done, I enjoy the carrots. We don't want to cut the carrots because you can see how nice and dark they are. Well, we'll cut one to show you. And you see the color inside the carrot. If we were to cut this carrot up nice and small, it's going to do a couple of things that we don't want. Number one, it's going to cook before the chicken is done. And number two, it's going to make this very dark. This yellow and orange, this dark orange is going to come out, and as it cooks, it turns brown. And we don't want a brown chicken stock. So if you've had a chicken or turkey stock that's brown, stop cutting the carrots. So they go in there. Now, the secret to that golden yellow color is the onion. Leave the skin right on it, and into the pot it goes. Then all you do is cover this with water and cook it for an hour, hour and a half. We're not doing that today. I did that ahead of time, and here's what it will look like. This is a pot, still a little warm. I'm going to put that so you can see into the pot And what we're going to do is remove all the goodies now. And I'm just going to put them into a baking sheet, because remember I told you that now you're going to be able to take that chicken apart. So we're going to pull the wing on it. Now, how do you tell when it's done? Don't be afraid. If you look at this leg right here, the meat began to pull away. You can see the bone beginning to show right there. Another thing you can do is, even when it's cooking, is just lift up the chicken. Don't lift it out of the boiling stock now. And just take that, and if you can break that leg off like that and pull that apart, it's ready. So now we have our chicken ready, and we're going to pick up the chicken. Now I put the spoon under the bottom of the chicken, and I'm going to just grab it by the back and stand it up, and we're going to let any stock or hot juice run out of the chicken. Now it goes right to our little pan. Now he's on his back. So we've got the chicken right there. These are the onions, and they're still pretty firm. They're done just nicely right now. Okay, now you'll squeeze them. You can see that they should feel like an apple that's too old. Is a good idea. Now the carrots that I put in, these were pretty large. And the larger the carrot, the longer you can cook that stock. But these carrots I put in, they'll just break and they're done. And all that color is in the carrot where I want it. And we're going to pull out that celery. And we're going to pull out all those goodies. Yeah, I've got enough right there. One more stick of celery. And what is left is the stock. All we did was put the water in there, and I put in a little bit of pepper, but I did not put in any salt. Now, the reason that we don't put in any salt is, if you take a look at this pot, as the program began, I took some of the stock out of the pot, and now it's steaming up, and it's making the studio smell great. And what has happened is that the water will evaporate. If you had salt in here at the time you made this, and you brought that chicken stock to a boil and you tasted it, it would taste great. But as you simmer it down and the water cooks out and the stock gets stronger, the salt will get very, very strong. So the salt won't boil out. So we don't put any salt in it in the beginning, because we can always add salt later. It's very difficult to take out. And what we're going to do is let that soup cook a little bit, and we're going to add some color to it. We're going to put a little bit of carrot in there. I'm going to take one of the carrots. And the skin, I left the skin on here because that's where all your flavor is. And if you want, you can peel that right down if you'd like. Otherwise, just cut that carrot. And whenever you're cutting any vegetables, if you've seen our program before, make all of your long cuts first. We're cutting our celery, and we're going to cut them nice and long. Now remember, this is a soup, so I want everything to fit on a spoon. So we just cut them all the same width. And these are nice and easy. You can use the dullest knife in the house for this job. This is one, if the kids want to help and you have a dull knife, they can do this. You can almost cut these with a butter knife. If you cook them a little longer, you would be able to. Now we take that onion, and we're going to cut the top and bottom off the onion, and we're going to put a little bit of the onion in there. And these are very good for you when you have a cold also. So any of these flu and cold symptoms that you have, you got all the good stuff right here. And we're going to put them right in there. Now all that will fit on a spoon, and it's going right over here into the pot. And so we don't splash too bad. As I lower it, I get as close to the stock as I can, and then I let that go right in there. And if you look, we haven't really added anything to this stock other than the ingredients I showed you. I'm going to put it under the camera here. I want you to take a look at that and just see the color that we've gotten. Remember, there's nothing artificial in here. It's got a nice yellow color, and that's from the onion skins, and the carrots kept their own color, and now we've got the white floating around from the onions. So now we've got a nice little chicken soup going. I'm going to turn up the fire just a little bit, because I want to now bring this to a boil. And what we're going to do is, if you were going to make chicken noodle soup, all you would do is break up some spaghetti. Once it comes to a boil, throw it in there and you're done. But you know, we do things a little better than that. We're going to add some cooked chicken meat to that, and the leg just pulls right apart. Just pull the meat right off of there. And we're going to put some chicken meat in there. And now we're going to put some dumplings in there. Because this, since it has everything in it, you've got the vegetables in there, the meat is in there, we're going to make a little bit of a starch to go with it. Instead of trying to eat a hot soup with a biscuit, we're going to put the biscuits right into the soup. You'll need a little bowl. Get myself a spoon here and some flour. That's about 2 cups of flour, 2 to 3 cups. Some flour, some milk. We're going to put just a little bit of oil in here. Now, instead of a melted butter, you put a little oil in there. There's no cholesterol in the oil. That's going to make these more tender. If you've ever eaten biscuits that you needed a hacksaw and a chisel, change the recipe by putting in a little bit of oil, and it's going to make them very tender. I just put in a little bit of baking powder, and that's going to make the dumpling very light. A little bit of parsley. And now to tie it all together, a couple of eggs. And then all we're going to do is mix this up. And it's very easy. If you just set out your ingredients and get ready, as you see how we did it, you just prepare the soup and get your filling for the soup made. Because if it's just a plain thin soup like we've made today, and you want to add some body to it, this is the way to do it. Or putting in the raw spaghetti, broken up nice and small, will really add a lot of body to the soup. And with cold weather upon us, that's the best thing to put in there, is tighten that soup up just a little bit. It sticks to the spoon, and it just gives you a better feeling to eat a soup like that than a real thin one. Now we want to look at this batter as I've got it mixed up, and it should look kind of like a little bit of a heavy pancake. And if it looks like a heavy pancake, you're in business. But I want you to be sure. So if you've got your pot of soup boiling, like we have right now, we give it a test. And to do that, we're going to pull a little bit of our dumpling mix, and we're going to just slide it off right into where the soup is boiling. And then that should float to the top like it just did. And I'm going to just give this a bounce with the spoon and see how I like the look of that. Now, that's going to break apart a little bit because these are going to be very tender. So what we're going to do is add a little bit more flour to that. And just the amount of time that this has set up is exactly what it will do. It will absorb the water in there. It will tighten up. So if the mix is just a little bit too thin, wait a moment or two and just put a little bit of flour across the top. There it goes now. But you don't want it so that it's like a dough, because that's when they're going to get tough. Got to kind of hit that right in the middle. There we go. That looks like we're going to do it. And then what we're going to do with this now is spoon this into our soup. That's holding on to the spoon real nice, and that's what we're after. And when they go right in, there you go. They're staying down a little longer. And it came up just as quick as I told you. So that's what we're after. So I'm going to spoon in a bunch of the dumplings, and you know how to do this now. So while I get all these spooned in and turned over, I'd like you folks at home to watch this.
Strong. To win, you've got to be smart. Maybe you can be one of us, the few, the proud, the Marines.
Gee, maybe I'm going a little too fast for you. Sometimes I go too fast for me. What I'd like to do is, if you would like a copy of today's show, send a check for $19.95 to What's Cooking. Be sure you ask for today's show, which is number 92-6. And you would send that care of Channel 14, Pemberton Township High School, Arnie's Mount Road in Pemberton, New Jersey. Our zip code is 08068. And make your check payable to Pemberton Township High School. That makes it a lot easier for you if you're trying to keep up with me, because getting set up and in between these things, I know what I'm going to do. If you're trying to take notes or keep up, we may just outrun you. So that'll make it easy. You can see it over and over again. What I've done now is the dumplings I have setting over here on top of the oven. Since I made the dumplings, I used over half the batter. I've got almost a dozen of them. They're over here in a little bit of the chicken broth keeping warm. The rest of the soup is on hold, hidden away where you can't see it. But I didn't let it boil away, because if you boil the dumplings too hard, they will fracture and they'll look like little tiny noodles when you're done, and they can cloud up a wonderful looking soup. So at the end of the show, we're going to set you up a bowl with 2 dumplings and that soup that we showed you in the beginning. Now, I have a heavy pot here, a saucepan, and I'm going to put that on the fire, and we're going to make up that fricassee. And what we're going to do is, into the pot, we're going to put a little bit of butter. And that's going to cook, melt. And then I'm going to add to that a little bit of flour, just till it looks like wet sand. And what I'm making is a type of a sauce called a velouté. It's going to be a sauce that is thickened with a roux and made with chicken stock. You see this in the foreground? That's that stock. I took half of it and put it into our soup. The other half is right here and going to go in and make our sauce. Now, while that's thickening up, we go back to our little chickadee here, and we're going to just pull the skin off the top of the bird. And what that's going to do is expose the cooked breast of the chicken, and that's what we're after for this dish. Now, we're going to take a sprayed small kind of a pan, like a cake pan, and we're going to just take that chicken meat off of there. Now, you want this to be boneless, and most of the work, the knife is over here. I'm working with just a hand. You can just pull that entire portion of the breast meat right off of there. So you've got a beautiful piece of juicy, well done, lightly cooked chicken meat. And we're going to just cut down onto the chicken and just pull it off. Just get most of the meat right off of there. And we'll just take that one right like that. And then we go to our carrots, and we put a few carrots in there. And that's going to give us some of the color. We're going to put a little bit of the celery. Now for this, I'm going after the larger pieces of celery. And we're going to keep these bite-sized, but about as big as the carrot. And we just cut them up and toss them in there, trying to fill in the spaces around the chicken breast, because we're going to kind of float this in this sauce. A little bit of onion. And you can garnish this with a couple of peas if you'd like. See, if I take the inside of the onion, it's nice and white and it's beautiful, real light. If you don't like a cooked onion, you don't like that taste of a fried onion, and when they're fried, they can be kind of strong and they will overpower the chicken. So use the center of that. Remember, that onion's been stewed and cooked in a liquid, so it's going to be very light. Meanwhile, back at the pot, the butter has melted, and we're adding some flour. Sprinkle that flour in there. And we want to absorb the fat. Now, what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to move this underneath our overhead so you can take a peek in the pot. And that's just how it's got to look. Just like that. It should be kind of thick and running around like that, and that's perfect. Now just mix that till any lumps that are in the flour are gone. And then we're going to add the chicken juice to it. And we're going to give that a stir. And you use that chicken juice to remove, I'm going to turn the fire up a little bit now, because we want to bring this to a boil. Use that chicken juice to remove that flour and butter mixture off the sides of the pan. And that will thicken up very nicely. And what we're going to add is a little bit of milk to that, just to lighten that up. And then we're going to thin that with the stock as it comes up to boil. till we get a nice, kind of a velvety texture to our sauce. And I think we've just achieved that right there. What we're going to do now is put a little bit of salt in it and a little bit of white pepper. And then we're going to come back over here to this pan and we're going to pour that sauce right over top of that. Just like that. Now, once we've done that, let me turn a burner or two off here and get set. We're going to send that over to the oven. So this is going to go in the oven for just a minute or two, and that's going to hold it, and it's going to keep it nice and hot. So this type of a dish is really nice because it will wait for you, and they're the kind of foods I like to make. If you're running a little bit late, I want the food to wait for you. I don't want to come in and find out that, gee, it was good an hour ago. So I'm going to slide everything over here, and we're going to go and begin with this little pastries. These are very, very quick and very easy to make. And this is another type of a dish where if you've got some little ones at home that want to work with you, this is nice. All you're going to need is about 2 cups of flour. See, I'm stuck on 2 cups of flour. So the flour goes into the bowl. We're going to put in 3 eggs. And then we're going to add some sugar to that. And this also gets just a little bit of oil. And that's going to lighten up our pastry. And then to put some seasoning to it, to give it the flavor that we're after, we're going to take a lemon. You can take a lemon or an orange and grate that on the small side. Now I'm looking out the corner of my eye. I have a skillet of oil on over here. These are going to be fried in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking at that. I'm going to lower that fire just a little bit because that's coming up to temperature. And we want that just hot enough. We don't want it too hot. And I'm going to check that by just putting a little bit of flour to it. And that flour is just setting right on the top there and bubbling up nicely. So there we go with some of the... This is called a zest. If you ever see a recipe that calls for a zest of lemon or orange, most of the flavor is held in the skin because those little pores you look at hold all the oil. And that's the difference between an oil and an extract. The extract is made from alcohol and just the juice of whatever it is that you're using, whereas when you use one of these, you're going to get the oil has the most flavor and it's going to last the longest. So that goes into our bowl. Then we take and we begin to mix that. And this is going to form a dough. And if the dough is a little too sticky, we're going to add a little more flour to it. If the dough is not, we don't add any to it. And we're going to put it right on a board and roll these out. And this is really a nice little pastry that's kind of hard to hurt. So I take a look at that, and it's a little bit on the sticky side, so we put a little flour to it. And we just give that a mix. Now this you want to firm right up. This should be a nice stiff little ball of dough that you're working on. So when you're using a bowl like that, you just turn it and push it into the bottom of the bowl where the dry ingredients are. You just give them a push around like that. And once you've got a dough that forms like that, you're about ready to go. Then you're going to take a little flour, and we're going to put that down here. And I'm going to pull a little bit of the dough off of here. And that goes into our flour. And you just knead that along. And by pressing that extra flour in there, this is going to dry real nice. And that's what's nice about this. You can take a small piece at a time. Then you pat that out, give it a roll. Just get it anywhere near a thickness that you can work with that's fairly uniform. Once we've got that thickness that we are after, that it's just flattened out, just cut them up nice and easy. And then they'll go right to your frying pan. You'll put that nice and close to the frying pan, and you'll drop them right in. And they'll curl and bow around each other, and they're going to look really nice. And they're going to brown fairly quickly. And then you just take a pan of powdered sugar, and you're all set to go. So we've got our pastry cooking. They're going to brown. We've got to pull up a couple plates just to show you what we've done. So I want to go over to the oven and take a peek in there. And we're going to pull out our fricassee. Again, that's nice and light and white. And it's got a very, very light texture. So this is really the kind of a dish, if you're not feeling up to par, this is a nice dish to get started on. It's very light and easy to digest. Now what you do is you'll pull out some of the meat and some of the vegetables. We'll put them both on here. And put those carrots down the middle for a little bit of a color, and we just spoon the sauce right over those. Then we take, give my pastry a turn here because it's about ready. And they really fluff up nice. There we go. Got one that won't turn, there we go. And now we're going to take a little ladle of the soup. I've got that hidden right here. And then we're going to slide a couple of the dumplings into that. And that's how you want to send this out. You want to have it so that you can put the dumplings right in on top so that they will be right on the center of your soup, and that's the first thing that everybody's going to see. Now our pastries are done, and we're going to just drop the pastries, give them a little drain like that. And this is 10x sugar. You can drop these in the cinnamon also. Now I took a little tiny ball of dough, and look at the amount of these little guys that we have ready here. So you know that that batch is going to make you quite a bit of it. And these will keep really well. So if you get them made up, you can store them in a can. With the holidays ahead of us, this is something nice that people can help you make, the children can help you, or that's very easy for you to make yourself. And we just sugar them up. And we've shown you how to handle a chicken in a traditional way, making a plain chicken soup, and we fancied it up with some dumplings. We'll put the dessert out of the way here. And we also took what was left from the chicken and made a very nice entree.